Today we are going to make a fumet, which is an aromatic stock, as a base for our shrimp bisque. So our mise en place will be as follows. We're going to have some butter, about a pound of shrimp where the tails and the shells have been removed and saved. We're going to have mirepoix that is made with leeks, carrots, and celery. We're going to have one small shallot minced up. We're going to have some white wine, lemon, our bouquet garni, and 48 ounces of water. So the first thing we're going to do with our shrimp is we need to remove the shells and the tail, which we'll save, and we will utilize those for our fumet or our stock. So when you get your shrimp, it'll be in a container, and if you look, you'll see that it's got the shell and it's got the tail already attached. Now these have been deveined already. That's how we purchased them, so that's one less thing for you to worry about. However, we will want to take the tail and shell out. So I will show you how to do that pretty simply. What we're going to do is with your forefinger and your thumb, we're going to pinch the shrimp right above where the tail is, right where it connects to the meat. We're just going to squeeze, and that should pop off a big portion of the shell and the tail. I'm going to put that in the bucket, and then I should be able to peel off the rest of the shell with the legs. And we'll put that in with our shells, and then we'll put the shrimp into our shrimp bucket. So I'll show you that again. Finger and thumb, we're going to go ahead and squeeze. It'll pull right off. There shouldn't be any meat inside the tail. And then we can go ahead and peel the remaining shell, put it in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull, squeeze and pull at the same time, and they should pop off. The goal is to not have any meat in the tail itself. So after about 3 or 4 of them, you should have the technique, no problem. Once our shrimp are fully, the shells are and the tail are sorted, and we have our meat, we'll go ahead and start our production. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our fumet at this point. We're going to build it in this pot. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our butter. And this butter is going to be utilized for sauteing our shrimp and our mirepoix prior to adding the water that we're going to need for our liquid. We don't want to brown it. We don't want to caramelize anything. We just want to get a nice melted butter. And when we saute our shrimp, we just want to cook them until they're fully cooked through, and then we're going to reserve them and use them tomorrow in our bisque assembly. And so with shrimp, the nice thing is with most shellfish, when we cook them, the proteins in the shrimp change color from kind of that translucent look and gray look to almost a pinkish white, and that's when we know that they're done. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my shrimp in here. And I'm going to saute them. Now there is quite a bit of moisture in the shrimp, and that's okay, because as this evaporates, a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, we're going to create some fond at the bottom of our pan, which will be fine when we get to deglazing. And two, the fat that's in there is also going to be used to saute the vegetables. And again, the fumet is a stock where we are sauteing and sweating the ingredients before we add our liquid. So it's not quite like a brown stock where we caramelize, and it's not a white stock where we just throw in the raw ingredients. It's somewhere in between. So we're going to go ahead and let these cook, and you can see how the shrimp is starting to turn color a little bit. It's going from that gray translucent look, and it's starting to get kind of that pinkish, orangish color in the items are white. So we're going to let this cook, and we're going to saute it for about 3 or 4 minutes until the shrimp are cooked through. Here's a pretty good look. You can see that they're starting to definitely change color, and that we are experiencing that fully cooked through process. 145 degrees or so, about 140 is when this starts to happen. So we know it's going to be safe and sanitary. But we want to go ahead and cook this through. So it's going to need a few more minutes. Once the shrimp is fully cooked, I'm going to get a clean, sanitized container. We're not going to use the same container with the raw. And we are going to remove our shrimp. We are going to keep the fat and the liquid in there, so we're going to be careful not to pour that out, because we're going to need that for our next step. So what we're left with is a pound of cooked shrimp, and this will be great chilled, and then we'll reheat it tomorrow for our soup. So now we're going to go ahead and add our mirepoix, and our mirepoix has the leeks, the carrots, the celery. All we're going to do here is sweat it, kind of get the cooking process going, get the aromatics going, and once we start seeing that moisture push out, we're going to add the shells and start building the nourishing element for our fumet. And again, you're seeing a really nice fond develop at the bottom, which we will deglaze off once we add our white wine. So once I start getting some moisture pushed out, I'm going to take my shells and tails. I'm going to throw those in. And this is kind of building, again, my nourishing element for that. We're going to add our shallots. And we're going to go ahead and saute this. And the shells are going to act like the meat. As they get heat applied to them, you're going to see them start to get color change to look like cooked shrimp. So they're going to go from that gray color to that pinkish reddish color. And you're going to start smelling the shrimp, and you're going to start smelling the mirepoix, the shallots, and all those sorts of things. And again, the better job we do at sweating and getting this first cooking process going, the more flavor we'll be able to extract from it. This is only going to go for about 30 minutes once we add our liquids. So we want to make sure that our knife cuts are nice and small and uniform. Want to make sure we're doing a good job of our cuts and cooking before we add our water. So now I've got some great fond. I'm going to go ahead and take my white wine, and I'm going to take about half of it, and I'm going to deglaze one half the pan, kind of get off some of that good flavor. And I'll move it over to the other side. And I'll deglaze this side. And you'll really get that nice wine smell, and you'll smell the wine flash off, kind of cook. Again, the bottom of our pan will clean up nice. The sides will look good. I'm going to go ahead and add a squeeze of lemon. That's going to kind of cut through that seafood taste a little bit. And then when I add my water, I've got 48 ounces. So I've got 16 ounces first. And then I have 32 ounces in the large deli container second. I'm going to throw those in. I'm going to add my bouquet garni. And I'm just going to make sure that I've released all the fond. And I'm going to go ahead and let this simmer for about 30 minutes. And we'll get some good aromatics. And we will get a little bit of reduction, but not too much. And we'll get a really strong flavor. And for our bisque, the key component to our bisque is going to be this fumet that we're making, the base for our bisque. All the flavor will come from this, or a good majority of it. So we will make sure to really do this the right way. So I'm going to go ahead and let this simmer for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to strain it with a fine chinois, and we'll discard the solids and chill this overnight, and that way it'll be ready to go for our final production of the bisque. So as this is coming to a kind of a rapid boil, we're going to turn the heat down a little bit, and we want to just get a nice kind of even simmer for it. We're going to want to reduce it by maybe a third or a quarter, so we should get closer to 32 ounces. 32 to 40 ounces is really what we're looking for when it's all said and done. So it's okay if we lose some through reduction. That's kind of the idea. That's going to concentrate the flavor. And we're just going to kind of let this go. Notice how I'm kind of walking the heat back a little bit. We want to get a nice gentle simmer. So there's very little movement, but yet we're getting enough heat to create some reduction. Okay, we've been going for about 30, 40 minutes, 35 minutes. We've got some good reduction. I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat off, and I'm going to strain this with a fine chinois into a large container so that we can chill it, and then we will scale it out for tomorrow when we do our bisque. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. Make sure I get all the good stuff out of there. We can go ahead and clean this pot. Make sure we got all of our solids out. And what we're left with is a really nice, flavorful, aromatic shrimp fumet, which will be a perfect base for our bisque.